Today we're going to talk through a creative video that I did with my friend Delaney, and I was fortunate to have my friend Brandon come do BTS for this one, and he also edited this behind the scenes video. So let's talk first about the concept of the video. The goal is to convey this sense of feeling that we're alone and we're trapped sometimes with our thoughts. Delaney and I wanted to really hone in on what that could look like visually. We first found the style. There was this trend going around where you could turn 120p footage that can usually get slowed down to 20% all the way to 2% through Davinci Resolve's optical flow and AI speed warp. That was something that just blew my mind, because I'm like, how can we utilize that to do this? Let's watch the video. It starts off in this bathroom scene. So how did we shoot this? To do the super slow-mo, you go over to like this high shutter, typically more than 1/800. For this video, I was doing 1/2000. And the nice thing with that is we were shooting indoors at this really cool vintage style abandoned apartment that we found in LA that we could rent out, and using just very minimal light with a tube light and then just one key light for some of the scenes. The thing that is cool about the FX3 is the dual ISO capability. So since we were inside, I was able to utilize the second native dual ISO of 12,800, really just get creative with those shots since we were able to do high shutter. So Delaney is a dancer by trade. However, her movement is just so beautiful. So we had her run through different movements in each of these rooms and looks, knowing that this final product would be slowed by 2%. And that's something that is very important, is being really intentional with how you shoot for the final. And how you get there is with pre-production. Let's go ahead and watch this. And it was just, you find this inspo, right? So I thought it was really cool here, just like how he utilizes this slow motion, right? And then Delaney had this idea of getting stuck in a loop here. And it was, or this Instagram where there was this girl animated just stuck in her room. And I thought that was really neat. I was like, we can do that with a tripod. Similar to composites with photo, you can do the same thing with video if you have them in different parts of the room. And we did that there in the kitchen scene. And you just had to make sure that you're not overlapping. And if you do overlap, be intentional about it. So with the overlapping portion, you'll see I had Delaney sit in the middle of the room, and I masked that Delaney out so everything behind her would be singular. With Milanote, you can also choose like a location. So this was the location that we used, and we just really loved it. And then I had reference inspo. So I really wanted to utilize some sort of creative lighting here. And as you can see, we kind of like really hit that on the head here with the final video. And as you can see, we wanted to have like this bathroom vibe with like a neon light. So we utilized a tube light and then just some crazy movement type stuff. And that was really it. This shoot was a bit more free flowing. And I think that's something that's beautiful about shooting. So there's the aspect of pre-production, but then also going into the shoot, being intentional with how you shoot. Using that pre-production as a guideline, I always film with the edit in mind. When I film, I always think of where will what I'm clicking record on right now fit on the editing timeline and into the final video. I think by doing that, you can really lessen the time that it takes to edit when you're in post. Let's talk through each scene. So the first scene, we had this bathroom where she was looking at herself in the mirror, and I had her do these different moments, as you'll see, of like getting low, like bringing her hand to her head. The reason I did that is because it immediately conveys I am looking at myself in the mirror. What is the reflection that I see? Do I like it? What am I thinking about? What do I feel trapped? Do I feel free? this in particular is one of those moments where you feel trapped. Everything on the outside could look shiny, but then it takes crossing mountains to get to the end. I think the mirror is the foundation for this story because you can then teleport into these different scenes, and it makes sense because at the end, I intentionally thought about looping it. So it'll start in the mirror, end in the mirror, and then boom, you're transported back into the world. We go from the mirror into this kitchen scene, and that is the scene where we had the inspo from the animation that showed this character in the room in different spots. And I wanted to show her doing different things in a kitchen that you normally would do, and then have herself look around in a circle while she's sitting in the middle of the room, seeing herself do these things and kind of like, how do I get out, right? And then that I slowed down to 80% instead of real time, because to me 80% is more dreamlike, and it felt like she was stuck in her own dream, like living it, right? Seeing all these Delaneys do these different things. And then it teleports us into this hallway, which is kind of like a through place of being stuck in this limbo, going back into that super slow-mo. As you can see, she's kind of falling. It's all hectic and chaos, but yet so calming with how slow it is, and the methodical movement of falling backwards and then being close and then falling backwards again, and then finally ending with the standing in the middle of that room of like, I'm at peace with where I'm at. And then it went into this living room sequence where there was this sick TV that was already there at location, and we turned it on and we were like, oh shoot, it actually turns on. And then it played this static. Both Delaney and I were like, we should utilize that. And I thought it was such a neat place because it also, the static is like the noise of the outside world, right? And so we were like, let's do different spots in this room, but instead of masking like we did in the last position, we'll do cuts. So it'll be her super slow-mo cutting into these different positions. And this is where we could also utilize her movement skills to where I wanted her to like do a little bit of freestyle dancing. And the cool thing there is with super slow-mo, any type of movement is just so emphasized to where I had her do all these different arrays of movements that real time could have felt silly. But the thing is you have to feel silly sometimes to get to the product that you want. And as you can see here, I actually think that this was my favorite scene of the day, and I didn't expect that. And then I had it flash and transport back into the mirror of her looking at it right before looping to begin. And then as we were wrapping the shoot, Delaney had mentioned could be sick to get a few photos. And I was like, absolutely. And capitalizing on the space and time that you have. And we did a few photos using the mirror space because I thought that was such a cool little editorial moment. And we had just one tube light, just like how it was lit for the video, and really just leaned into just what that feeling was, but this time with still photography. This is also the first time I had used Davinci Resolve fully, editing, color, slow-mo, everything. And I might do a walkthrough of that at a future date. So let's walk through quickly the edit. And I have all these layers of sound design because sound design was so important here. I found this track by M83 that I really liked and really felt like you were just like stuck in this other world. And then I use these different types of risers and atmospherical ethereal sounds to really just continue to transport you into that world. As you can see, the edit, not that many clips because of the intentionality with how it was shot. Clips were really just finding those best moments and putting them into this edit. The cool thing with this is, let's go into the color sequence. So I colored this with Dehancer. And the cool thing about Dehancer is there's just so many different types of color, right? So this was what it looked like in color, but we always had in our mind to shoot it with black and white. And I found that this black and white space, because we wanted the focus to be on the imagery and the feeling that you got. And I feel like sometimes color can take away from that. in this specific use case. And so, yeah, I found this cool black and white film emulation from Dehancer and then went in and color corrected each individual clip. This was also my first time coloring in Davinci, and it was so powerful. And I am fully convinced to continue on this path of Davinci almost full time. It is super cool because you can color each individual clip without having to do like an adjustment, but you can still copy and paste the first initial color grade into a node and then put it all over every clip. I just did Control C and then I highlighted everything, pasted everything with a Control V, and then it did it. In the edit, this is where the magic sauce happens with the slowing of down. So you do optical flow, you go change clip speed, and I changed it to 2% speed. And then you click maintain timing and you click OK. And then with this, you go over into the video side here and you go into retime and scaling. You choose retime process of optical flow. And then eventually when you're ready to export, you use motion estimation and do AI speed warp better. But as you'll see, I'll play this back for you right now. I currently have that effect turned off because when you turn it on, it just like completely nukes your computer, even if you have a super fast one. So that would be a final touch before you export, because here, still playing back smoothly. But let me turn on the speed warp better. And as you can see, you can do multiple clips at a time by highlighting. And as you can see, when you do it, it's gonna be super choppy. So it didn't even like register, but as you can see here now, it goes back when you change it back. So yeah, this is like super similar to Premiere Pro for all you Premiere users. And I could do a more in-depth breakdown of another video potentially, but you just set out the clips, and then I had the sound design layers, as you can see here. And then what I did do is to transfer into each thing, I put like a simple little flash transition just to help go into the next scene. And then at the end, I did a little flare just to get back into that mirror scene, and then boom, it loops. You could have been doing anything, and you chose to spend time together with me today. And I am grateful, and I hope that you had the best day. And I love you. I'll see you in the next one.